are going to run recruitment by recruitment by recruitment down from and basketball and football, tell you who committed, what you need to know, and all that. Let's get started here on Locked On Wildcats.
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for keeping it Locked On Wildcats. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, we've got a lot to get to this show, but first, we are going to talk Arizona basketball and Arizona football recruiting this entire show because guess what? There's a lot to get to. We're not ASU. We recruit good players around here. And let's start with the guy that, let's start with the sport that obviously people around here follow and are most passionate about, and that is Arizona basketball. Now, a lot of people have wondered, and you hear this all the time. They say, what kind of recruit or what kind of domestic recruiter is Tommy Lloyd? Because again, well, he's certainly recruited very well. From a foreign-based perspective, there has been some struggles in the local scene, and you could look at it as certain players. You could say, your Cody Williams, your KJ Evans, guys that it looked like you were going to be in close with that just didn't quite work out for whatever reason. But big time commitment right here from Jamari Phillips out of California. Now, what do you need to know about Jamari Phillips? First, top 25 wing out of Cali, plays on the same AAU team as Carter Bryant, who we will get to in just a minute, but big time get. He can probably slide right in at that shooting guard spot if you need him to. I think he's going to provide tremendous depth. You watch him, and he's just smooth. There's some guys out there that are just smooth with what they do, and he's one of those dudes. He can go on there, and he can essentially make every single move at all three levels. And you generally don't see that in this day and age. You generally see guys who can shoot threes or dunk. He can get kind of wherever he wants on the court, and that's what makes him a unique player. Big get by obviously by Tommy Lloyd. So again, just to rehash domestically the players that he's gotten in the last two classes, you've got Kylan Boswell, who we already know is a five-star point guard. You also got KJ Lewis, top 50 player. I am huge on KJ Lewis. I know some people might have, fallen off a little bit on him. I don't care. I think he's going to be a big-time player here for the Tommy Gun. And when it comes to Jamari Phillips, another guy who's got all-American potential right there, going to be a great fit. And as Tommy Lloyd has always said, it's about fit here. He wants guys that are good fits, and he's not going to sacrifice that for any reason, nor should he sacrifice that for any reason. So Jamari Phillips, big get. Then the next guy that I think a lot of Arizona fans were hoping is the next domino to fall, and that would be Carter Bryant. Now, Carter Bryant's even higher rated than Jamari Phillips, and he's another guy. He can pretty much go wherever he wants. If he wants to go to, if he wants to go to Duke, he wants to go to Kentucky, you name it, he can do it. That's where he's at. And he would be a nice fit. You would have to figure that a guy like Carter Bryant would step in and play pretty much immediately wherever he is. Now again, maybe it takes a little bit of time, but he's a 2-year dude. I think Jamari Phillips is a 2-year guy as well. 2024 is shaping up to be a very, very nice recruiting class for the University of Arizona basketball team. And again, one thing about it, shouldn't question Tommy Lloyd at this point. Tommy Lloyd knows what he's doing. There's really no other way around it. You look at his track record, you look at he's recruited, you look at what he's been able to do. He's been able to bring in high caliber players on the transfer market, on the international scene. And now I think you're going to see him start to kill it domestically as well, because he's running with a product that's fun to watch out there. And more so than anything, it just looks like a natural home for people. Anybody that went to that Tennessee game, I think, is going to be hard pressed to come away from that Arizona game saying, I wouldn't like to play there. So again, big stuff for big stuff for Arizona basketball. Now, what is, so 2023, I've always thought was going to be a loaded season for Arizona. Not that every season isn't, but 2023, 24, 24, 25, you can just see it keep rolling right there at Arizona. All right, now let's switch over to some Arizona football. Where to start? Jedd Fisch, and we've said this for a while, Jedd Fisch gets it. Jedd Fisch Jedd Fisch as a recruiter is just next level. As a roster builder is just next level. It's really that simple. So let's just talk about what's happened in the last 24 hours. Justin Flowe, as we've been talking to you about, has committed to the University of Arizona. Mega recruit, 5-star linebacker out of California, arguably the best linebacker in the entire class. He, arguably the best player in the entire class. I mean, there's a lot to like about him. About 6'2", 235. You got to figure that he's going to fit in really nicely with right next to Jacob Manu. You've still got Leviticus Sua there that's Arizona's recruiting very, very hard. But Justin Flowe gets in there, 5-star kid. And again, had some injuries at Oregon. There's no secret about that. But he's also, I think, a guy that, sometimes you just need a second chance. This is a guy that needs a second. I think he probably needed a second chance. And I think Arizona is a very, very good fit for him. And it just goes to show you, too, that Jedd Fisch certainly knows what he's doing in this regard. Then another guy, another massive recruit, not from the portal, but high school recruit, Raymond Polito. Raymond Polito chose Arizona over Alabama. And just to think that Arizona beat out Alabama for a kid that had been committed for a while. Now you look at Polito's frame; he's about 6'6". He's a massive dude, 315, 320 pounds. And it wouldn't surprise me if he slides right into that left tackle spot. I mean, I could certainly see that happening. He can move pretty well. He's a bigger guy. And I think with Arizona, Alabama, or beating out Alabama, it just shows you that Jedd Fisch has really got things going on the trajectory that he wants things to go on. And, and that's definitely the position in need. I mean, and I still think Arizona's got to hit some more tackles right here. Arizona's got to get some more dudes in there. And if that happens, then that offensive line could be a year away from being really, really good. Because you got to remember that the interior is already set. You already got Baker, you got you got Baker, you've got Savania, and you got Wendell Moe. Especially at those guard spots, Arizona feels really, really good. So if you can solidify those tackle spots with young players, you're going to be good. Now, then another guy who is going back to the transfer portal here, Bill Norton. Great name, by the way. Sounds like an actor. But Bill Norton is from he's a D lineman from Georgia. You look at his stats over the years, only 9 tackles in 4 seasons. Not the greatest thing in the world, but he's also at Georgia. And you got to remember that Georgia's produced like 10 defensive linemen, NFL defensive linemen in the past, 3 years, something like that. So I'm not going to hold a lack of playing time against him. They just need him to be solid on the interior. If he can be solid, if he can just, take up some if he can take up some linemen, that's all you really need. And I think that he could certainly do that. So we'll keep an eye on Big Bill Norton for you. But I like it. Again, I don't know what to expect. Could be a difference maker, could not be. But at the same time, you always take a D lineman, a scholarship X4-star kid that played at Georgia. You take that every day of the week if you're Arizona, and then you deal with if they're not good or if they are good after that. Now, another guy in the transfer portal then, Oren Patu. All right, Patu is an interesting case. He was a high 3-star kid out of Seattle, signed with Cal, didn't do a ton with Cal, but when he played pretty well. I don't know what to take from this other than Jedd Fisch has shown that he is pretty good at evaluating players in the portal. And not only is he pretty good at it, he can also he can also put that on the field. Look at a guy like a Hunter Echols. Hunter Echols struggled at USC, never really played, came to Arizona, and he was good. So, hopefully Patu can come on off kind of that same little edge right there. Now, another guy, too, that's been a little bit overlooked and everything is Emmanuel Camley, cornerback, California. Jedd Fisch likes long cornerbacks. I don't think that I'm breaking any news there. As a matter of fact, I know I'm not breaking any news. And Camley fits right into there. He's about 6'3", 205, something like that. Or, excuse me, 6'3", probably about 185, 190. He's got kind of that Ephesians Prysock, Takario Davis type build to him. He's going to be fun to watch. It's going to be interesting to see what he can do because Fisch has shown that he will play youngsters and he'll play youngsters early. So Camley's going to come in with a legitimate chance to play in that defensive backfield. We'll see what happens there. Another nice get. Then let's see here, Malachi Riley. A lot of people were bummed when Arizona couldn't get Trey Spivey, wide receiver out of Chandler. But as always, Jedd Fisch was one step ahead right here. Jedd Fisch knew who he wanted, and he went out and he got Malachi Riley. Another guy, we're going to keep saying it time and time and time again, bigger guy on the outside, 6'2", 6'3", 195 pounds. As long as Jedd Fisch just keeps bringing in wide receiver after wide receiver, that position is going to be totally loaded. And again, Riley was a nice pickup, especially with people thinking that Arizona was going to get Spivey. You end up and get a player that's even more highly rated in Malachi Riley. Okay, now let's talk about BetOnline. BetOnline Sportsbook is where it's at. We're at the stage right now with BetOnline Sportsbook where it's just easy to use. I get people all the time that say, well, it's difficult for me to use this stuff. It's confusing. I don't know really what to do. BetOnline is where it's at. BetOnline Sportsbook. BetOnline Sportsbook is it's just simple and it's easy. That's the thing. So when you're dealing with BetOnline Sportsbook, he is you can find online, you can find live games, you can find all kinds of stuff right there. Check it out. Wrong one right there. Sorry about it. A few technical issues here, but BetOnline Sportsbook is where it's at. You've got a group, you got some players right there who, let's just say you're watching a game and you're like, man, I wish I don't think that everybody's quite on to Tommy Lloyd being better than people get right now, or that Arizona basketball is at a higher plateau than Arizona. That's where you get BetOnline Sportsbook. Check it out. BetOnline Sportsbook. Find all the latest odds, news, and scores right there. All right, we'll be right back with you talking about looking ahead to the future then about Arizona basketball and football. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, now Arizona football, Arizona basketball. Let's start with Arizona basketball. They are in a really, really nice spot going forward. And what I mean by a really nice spot is this is a unit that I think under Tommy Lloyd, he's shown that he can get players. It's going to be a top 10 team going forward for the foreseeable future, top 10 program. Because I think a lot of people were confused about why isn't Lloyd recruiting better? Why isn't, because again, he's putting out a fun product. He's not only is he putting out a fun product, he's putting out not only is he putting out a fun product, he's putting out a winning product and a product that's getting guys into the NBA. There's nothing not to like. Plus, you watch him and he's super fun out there. But I don't see this thing slowing down. I think Arizona's going to get Carter Bryant, and if they get Carter Bryant along with Jamari Phillips, that's going to put that'll end a lot of questions in that 2024 class. So again, when it comes to recruiting, man is getting better at it. And he's always going to have the international flair. He knows what to do when it comes to the transfer portal. Arizona basketball is incredibly lucky to have Tommy Lloyd, and I think your prognosis for him is pretty much a top 10 program here for the foreseeable future. As long as he's here, Tommy Lloyd totally gets it. Jedd Fisch is another coach that totally gets it. He is, right now, I don't know that there's a hotter coach in the country because he came into Arizona and, as we know, inherited a massive dumpster fire. He has recruited amazingly the last 2 years. And Arizona, if Arizona's a top 25 team next year, it wouldn't surprise me in the least. And I don't think it should surprise anybody else if Arizona's a top 25 team, because they're getting to that point where, Arizona is kind of, when it gets to Arizona, he came into a place that doesn't have a ton of built-in advantages, and he has shown that he can do it. And he's revamping the defensive side of the ball. He said last year that, they needed to get better players in on offense. And not only did they get better players in, they got way better players in. They got Jaden DeLaura, you've got Jacob Cowing, you got T-Mac, you got all kinds of different dudes. This year, I think he knew that he had a pretty talented offense, and he really had to address the defense, and he's done that so far. Now, I'll be fascinated to see where Arizona, how this projects on the field, because if Arizona can get to being like the 8th worst defense in the conference instead of like the 11th or 12th, you're looking at probably 8 wins next season. That's, again, you'll have a roster, you'll have personnel, you'll have talent that'll be able to stick up with that. And that's what he said. And we've talked about that before. This is kind of the 3-year game plan for Jedd Fisch. You go 1 win, 5 wins, 7 or 8 wins, and you just keep going. Then the next year you try to get 9 or 10 wins. And, that's, I think, what's exciting about where Jedd Fisch is right now. Arizona basketball and Arizona football on great footing. We're going to talk a little bit of Arizona women's basketball. Then we're going to talk next show, pretty much all Arizona women's basketball. Let's take a quick break. Thanks for sticking with us here and staying locked on Wildcats. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, now we're going to talk a little bit of Arizona women's basketball here. Arizona obviously had a really tough performance a week ago against Kansas. They came back and they absolutely obliterated a good Baylor team. And that just goes to show you, too, that women's college basketball, just like anything else, is different. It just, some games you can go out and some games you have it, especially when you're dealing with kids, and some days you don't. You didn't have it against Kansas. You certainly had it against Baylor, and we shouldn't be at all surprised about what they did against Baylor because, again, this is, Adia Barnes' team is immensely talented. You look across the board, whether it's Esmarie Martinez, Maya Nagy, Kate Reese, Shayna Pellington, Kaylin Gilbert, Helena Pueo. I mean, they are just absolutely loaded across the board. So, but you got to remember too, these are a lot of how do I put this? There's a lot of big time just pieces right there. And it's going to take a little bit of time because, again, you've got to be able to mold all these teams together, players together, but they're kind of, they're going to be there. And I've maintained from the beginning of the season that I think this is Adia Barnes' best team and our most talented team top to bottom. And I think that I'm going to continue to stick with that. Again, there'll be some setbacks, but I expect by the time NCAA tournament play hits that this is going to be a top 10 team. And this is going to be a team that's going to be a 2 or a 3 seed that absolutely nobody is going to want to play. And we've certainly seen that Adia can coach when it comes to March. All right. You all have a great rest of your Wednesday. We'll be back with you tomorrow. We're going to talk a lot of Arizona women's basketball there. They are obviously playing incredibly well. It's a top 20 program. So we will be back with you. But as always, a sincere appreciation. Thank you for keeping it locked on Wildcats. We're coming at you every single day. As always, it is a great time to be an Arizona fan. All kinds of good stuff going on. Basketball, football, women's basketball, and we'll be covering it right here on Locked On Wildcats.